Hey guys, project-zodiac here. I'm back with another video, and this is another movie review. And it's one that I'm really excited to talk about because I'm actually really excited for the new movie coming out. Um, so this is my review of the 2021 remake or reboot of the Mortal Kombat movies. Yeah, this one would be a reboot. And I have a lot about this particular movie to say. So this section will be kind of split into maybe three parts. By three parts, I mean three sections. Just quick general thoughts, in-depth spoiler-free thoughts, and maybe I'll do a spoiler section at the end. I'll decide. But with all that said, let's just go straight into this movie review because the new Mortal Kombat movie, Mortal Kombat 2, is finally gonna come out in a few months, and I'm very excited for it. So yeah, let's just jump straight into this movie. What do I think about this movie? My quick thoughts. Well, I do enjoy the movie. I do like it, and I think it's done pretty well. However, I do have a lot of complaints with this particular movie. Um, Now, just in terms of the overall aesthetic of the movie, I think it's done really good. In terms of the combat, it's done really good. But in terms of story, I think it was a bit weak and confusing because if you know the Mortal Kombat lore, some of the things that happens here should not be happening here. But I guess they're just doing their own version of it instead of trying to follow the games like the original one did. Now, in terms of the original Mortal Kombat movie, the original live action Mortal Kombat movie, I still do prefer that one so much more than this one. But this one does do some things right and some things a little bit better. Some things. But if you ask me to pick between the 2021 Mortal Kombat movie or the original Mortal Kombat live action movie, I would still go with the original live action Mortal Kombat movie. With that said, though, still a very fun movie, very enjoyable, and I think it does a pretty cool concept overall. But yeah, that's my quick general thoughts on this movie. Again, there are some complaints, but those are more in my in-depth thoughts on the movie. And they're not necessarily spoilers or anything like that. It's just some nitpicky things which I can talk about now in my spoiler-free in-depth section. So for those of you that want to stay for that, thank you. For those of you that don't, it's okay. Thank you for watching up until now. Let me know what you think of this movie. And rate, comment, subscribe. I'll talk to you later. Now, for those of you that are staying, again, thank you for staying. Let's go into my in-depth spoiler-free section. So, things that I really like about this movie. Again, the fights in this movie are amazing, especially that ending fight. I think that was done so good. I really, really liked the fighting in this movie. Yes, it is rated R. Yes, it is very violent and brutal. Does that take away from the original live action movie being PG-13? Not really, no. It doesn't, because they still made it feel like Mortal Kombat and with the, like, violence of it without it being that violent. So for this one though, because it's rated R, they let it become as violent as the games. So I do like that. I think that's done really well. Sub-Zero's costume is I don't like it. I'll talk about that later. Scorpion's costume is a little bit better, but I don't know why they give him the hood in this one. It seemed a little bit forced because, I mean, yes, that's how he is in Mortal Kombat 11 and 1, but I really, or in 11, actually, I don't think he's like that in 1, but I really, really just, I wish that they just had like the head cap instead of the hood. But his costume overall works really good. They introduced a brand new character that was made exclusive to this movie. And while I have some complaints with that, I think they focused a little bit too much on him. I do like the character. I think he was done pretty well. So as the movie goes on, like I probably would have done the pacing or the plot around him a little bit differently. I don't mind that they created a brand new character. I do think that that's pretty cool. I just really think that they could have handled him a little bit more. Now, in terms of the actors that they chose to play the particular roles, really, I don't think almost any of them fits their role. Um, like, really, I just think that their roles, like, they're all acting really, really good. That's not the issue here. It's just appearance wise, it just doesn't feel like those characters. Even though a lot of their costumes is pretty close to the games, it just like Raiden in this movie is he's really bad in this movie. Original Raiden made no sense in how his performance was and his dry humor, but at least he was wacky in some way and it was enjoyable to see. Um, Sonya is just a little annoying in this one. Jax, I think he was actually pretty cool in this one. I'm not complaining about Jax. Scorpion was really, really, really well done. I think Scorpion was done really well, and definitely one of the best characters in this movie. But then that's another complaint where we barely have Scorpion in this movie at all. So he's literally just at the very ending and the very beginning. That's a little bit of a spoiler, but it's not a big one. So yeah, so Scorpion not being in the movie too much was really upsetting. Um, in terms of the actor for Sub-Zero, I think he does a pretty decent job. I think he was okay. Cole's actor was pretty good too. I'm just trying to think who else was in it that I can think about. I can't remember his name right now, but who's usually the main character, Liu Kang, I think. I forgot. The one with the bicycle kick, and I think it's his cousin, the one with the sharp hat. Again, I'm sorry, I forgot their names. They did not really feel like their characters. I think the portrayal of that main character in the original movie looked just like him and was a very good portrayal of him. In this one, it kind of just feels like he's just kind of there and doesn't really know what to do or doesn't really want to be there too much. Same for the one with the hat. And then also Techno Syndrome, the song. I love that song so much. And it's not really in the movie. Instead, what they have is a horrible, awful dubstep remix of Techno Syndrome. And it is just so bad. They butchered the song with that remix. And I like electronic music. And yes, even dubstep can be fun music. But the way that the remix for it was really badly done. It was just a terrible dubstep remix of Techno Syndrome. That song should not have been touched. I think that song should have just been used as it was, or have the original composer make a new version of it. But the remix that we got really is bad. And then they don't even like use it throughout the movie, like in the original movie, where they do use it a couple of times, which was really nice. Now, in regards to the plot itself of the movie, again, what they do here is a pretty cool thing. Them being chosen by a birthmark, and that birthmark passing if they kill someone, chosen to attend the tournament. I think that's cool, but then in my mind, and that's not really a spoiler, just because that's like just the general plot of it. In my mind, I also just think like that feels a little bit forced. Like, why can't Raiden just go and select people? I don't know why they need to have a particular birthmark that can pass from person to person if you kill the person with it. So it just seemed a little bit forced in that sense. And then in terms of what's it called? The actual plot. So again, this isn't really spoilers. It's just the tournament is not in this movie. this movie is kind of like a prequel to the tournament. And it's interesting that they did it like that. And the tournament is supposed to be, I guess, Mortal Kombat 2. So I guess they really are kind of just doing their own universe, but it just feels so strange to have the first Mortal Kombat movie being called Mortal Kombat, but it's not about the tournament. Yes, there is a Mortal Kombat because these people are fighting to kill each other. And yes, it's the characters from the games, but I think it could have just had a subtitle just to make it feel a little bit more separate from associating it with being the tournament of Mortal Kombat. Maybe something like Mortal Kombat, the beginning, or just something like that, just to show that it's not the tournament. Uh, because, yeah, I guess the tournament's going to be in the second movie. So we will see with how that goes. Also, no Johnny in this movie, but I know that he's like a fan favorite. I was okay with him not being in it, to be honest. Um, so it's going to be interesting to see how he is in the next movie. With that said, though, there is, like I said, the fights are very good, very gruesome. The new character Cole is really cool. There are some really cool things here. It is a well produced movie. There's a lot of really interesting things, and it's done with a lot of care, but some of the callbacks also do feel a little bit forced, like flawless victory, fatality. When they say it in this movie, it feels just forced. As opposed to where in the original, yes, sometimes it came out a little bit forced and sometimes it was a little bit cheesy, but it felt like it was supposed to be called there. In this one, it just seems like it's not even a tournament, they're saying these things and it's just random. So that's another little complaint. Now, I do have one very big complaint about this movie. And this one is about Sub-Zero, and this one will be spoilers. So, for those of you that don't want to know the spoiler section, again, this movie is very fun. It's very entertaining. It can be dull in some parts, but the action is really, really cool. So yeah, I really, really liked it in, it being at least not as bad as the original second Mortal Kombat movie. But I do think they could have done some things a little bit differently. Because also when you think about continuity wise, if you're going to be going with the games plot, some characters are in this movie and they die in this movie, but they are very, very important to the actual Mortal Kombat tournament itself. And how are they going to do that then? If those characters are now dead and they're not in the tournament, how is the tournament going to be held? Again, so it really does feel like they're doing their own original thing with the series. So we shouldn't be really focusing on differences between it and the games. But it is something that I wish they can at least address. And again, because this is technically a prequel to the tournament, it will be interesting to see how they actually handle the tournament. So, since this is all just like set up and introducing the characters, hopefully once the second movie comes out this year and they're focusing on the tournament, it will make sense and it will be worth that wait, I think. So I can't complain too much because we have to see how they're actually going to handle the tournament to begin with. So, yeah, these complaints are mostly just because it's not a movie based on the tournament. It's before it, so it makes you want to know how are they going to handle the tournament, given that it seems like they changed a lot of the things. So it's a complaint because of that, but those complaints I might even not have anymore once the second movie comes out because maybe it'll be addressed. But there is one complaint that I do have. And that is in regards to Sub-Zero, as I said, and it is a spoiler. So if you don't want to stick for the spoilers, then thank you for watching until now. Let me know what you think of this movie. Rate and subscribe. For those of you that want to know about the spoiler, thank you for watching. let's continue. So the spoiler that I have with this particular movie in regards to Sub-Zero is, like I said, I do not like his outfit. Yes, Sub-Zero feels menacing, but I didn't really get why he was being such a big threat. Um, I know that the original Sub-Zero wasn't the friendliest of all the Mortal Kombat uh, people. It was his brother that was mostly the good guy, but still, I just wanted to see him not just being a threat. It would have been interesting to see him being handled in a different way because they kind of made Scorpion here be the good guy, and trying to get avenged or revenge on Sub Zero, and they kind of made Sub Zero just a jerk. So maybe I'm remembering the lore wrong, but in regards to the original Sub Zero, and if I am, please correct me and let me know. But yeah, I just think they could have handled Sub Zero a little bit differently. Now, in terms of the costume for Sub Zero, like I said, I didn't really like his costume. But here's the thing, I do really like the costume. The costume for Sub Zero is amazing, and I feel like that's how Scorpion's costume should have been as well, just yellow. The thing that I don't like about his costume is that there's barely any blue in it. And honestly, this I could have just said this part. This doesn't need to be a spoiler section. But there's barely any blue in it at all. And it's basically black. So he's already basically Noob Saibot at that point. So it just made no sense why the costume designers decided to go with just this super dark blue as just highlights instead of just having it be a blue suit, because it really just looks mostly black, and like he's already Noob Saibot. And this part is a spoiler at the very end when Scorpion's taken away like the armor for Sub-Zero. um then it's just like the black suit is like, well, it doesn't really do much of a difference. Like it's basically Noob Saibot already. So I didn't really like how they handled his costume because it didn't feel like Sub-Zero. Like, not just because of the characterization, but also mostly because of the costume, because of how dark it is. And yes, you see this ninja using ice powers, and he's called Sub-Zero, but why is his costume like basically black? So that didn't really make sense. And another thing too in regards to Sub-Zero is we can understand how Scorpion survived, or survived because he comes back as like a spirit in a sense. But how is it that Sub-Zero is still alive and young? Like, this is hundreds of years later. I mean, obviously he works with the bad guys, so maybe it's magic that keeps him young, but why? Like that's what I don't get, that I think they should have just explained, because it makes no sense. So again, a lot of complaints with how they handled Sub-Zero overall. I think it wasn't very true to him in terms of appearance, and just in terms of lore. Again, I could be wrong on how the original Sub-Zero was. I do know that he wasn't as nice as the second Sub-Zero. um I just don't remember if he was supposed to be a villain or an evil person in the very first game. I forgot if he was or not. So I could be wrong on that. If he was, then yes, they did that correctly. But then why did they make Scorpion as being like a good guy? And also the fact of Cole being a descendant of Scorpion, I mean, at least it's cool. It kind of makes sense. But then when you think about the birthmark as well, it's like, so you're telling me every like people in Scorpion's family ends up at least somebody having the birthmark until they die and the new person is born and then they get the birthmark of the Mortal Kombat tournament? Like, how does that work? So again, the whole Mortal Kombat symbol, it's cool that they're using the symbol, but it being a mark on a person's body, and I guess one that Cole has had since he was born, but it's also a mark that could be passed on to someone if you get killed by them. Again, it's a cool concept, but it just doesn't work with Mortal Kombat as a whole because it's just it seems so random. It really just feels like they did this mark just to have just because of Cole. It feels like because Cole had a mark, they wanted everyone else to have a mark, and that he only has this mark because he's a descendant of Scorpion. Literally, that's all that it feels like. And it's like, okay, well, what if everyone else has this mark who is gonna join Mortal Kombat? Again, I just really think they could have handled that a lot different. I think just the simplest way really is he can have that mark if he wants, like if he's a descendant, but it's not even needed. He doesn't need to have a very specific mark in order to be Scorpion's descendant. They could still have Cole being Scorpion's descendant, just having Raiden explain that, and I think that would have been really cool and incorporate like some of his family's history into it over the century or over the years. I think that would have been cool, but no, it's just all tied because he has the mark. And then they don't really do a lot with that backstory. Also, in regards to the mark itself, like, yeah, they should just had Raiden going and picking people for the tournament. I think that would have made a lot more sense, a lot more simple as well. Then my last complaint really that I have is I love the final fight. The final fight is amazing and done really, really well. I just didn't like that it was inside like a sealed boxing match ring. It just felt a little bit, I don't know how to like the best way to describe it. Kind of like it's the final fight, and yes, it's a really cool set piece with everything iced over, but it's just inside of a empty, like a not empty in the sense of like there aren't a lot of people there. It's just the fighters. Um, Match ring, and with like cages around them. So it just felt almost like a little bit fan made in that sense, just because of the setting itself. Production wise, it's amazing. So nothing wrong with the production. Again, I love that fight. That was amazing, especially when Scorpion shows up. It's just I wish they could have done that fight in a different location. I think maybe an actual tournament ring or something like that, rather than just like a boxing ring. But overall, though, it was still very fun. That one's more of a nitpick, but yeah, I still really, really had fun watching the movie, and I am excited for the sequel. I really think that they're gonna do, the tournament, and I'm really excited to see how they're gonna handle that tournament. So with all that said, guys, let me know what you think about this movie. Rate, comment, subscribe. I'll talk to you later. Have a good day.